Okay, right now I'm here with Asia, who is from Italy. Thank you so much for being here today and joining me. And you wanted to share a little bit about your background and also what brought you here to the United States. So, would you mind telling me your story?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you so much for having me here today. I'm glad to share my story with all my fellow international students. Um, well, going back a few years back, I've been here for 4 years now, and I came here as an international student exchange first. So I did a year of exchange at Berkeley High, and after this year, I just loved Berkeley so much, and my host family decided to invite me back. So at that point, I was like, yes, let's stay here. I love Berkeley and I love the people here. It's been a great experience so far. So I decided to stay here a year longer, and I graduated halfway through my senior year. And then I decided to take classes at BCC. It was at first it was supposed to be a momentary thing, but then once that I started BCC, I just loved it. I got a job on campus, and I work for the international office here. I met a bunch of really incredible people and that I work with, and also met in classes. It's a really wonderful, how would I say, environment, which I love a lot. So I decided to stay here, and now after 4 years, I'm still around. So I've been taking classes here at BCC for the past 3 years, and I'm a global studies major. I'm working on my applications to transfer to UC Berkeley, hopefully. So maybe next year I'll just be right next door at UC Berkeley.
Wonderful. And can you share a little bit about where you grew up in Italy and what was the environment like um, and just a little bit about your background?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I grew up in a really small town in the Alps, near next to the border with Switzerland on the Italian side. And my family is really family based. So, everyone is really close with each other, which is something that I really enjoy and like a lot about the Italian culture. It's very important to stay connected within the family. Everyone just lives two doors down the street from each other, and family is definitely a big and important part of our lives, other than food, which is also pretty incredible. So I am lucky. I have a chance to go back pretty often, so that I am still in touch with my family all the time, and it's always nice to go back and spend time with them.
That's awesome. And you had the opportunity to do some traveling yourself. And can you share about your experience going to the Yugoslavian countries and what was that all about?
Yeah, well, that actually happened a couple of years ago, and with a friend here from California, we decided to endure this travel around the ex-Yugoslavian countries. So one summer, we decided to go, and we spent 1 month traveling between the ex-Yugoslavian countries. So I did Croatia, I did Slovenia, Montenegro, it's and a bunch of others, and it was so interesting to learn more about this culture and the similarities between them and also the big differences. I learned a lot about the history of ex-Yugoslavian countries, and it's something that I remember. It's walking around the streets of Sarajevo and being able to see the bullets in some buildings that were still there from the war, and seeing it so real that I've never experienced it before. And also about Sarajevo, something that I loved was the interesting connection between two cultures that were the Muslim and the Christian one. So it was incredible to see half of the city being like the Muslim part, so you would see their mosques and things like that, and on the Christian side you would see churches, and so this kind of difference connected. It was really amazing.
Yeah, that was what was there was a bridge that you were showing me a picture of. What was the name of the bridge? Do you remember, or what's the name of the town, or where that was located, or what country was that in that you were just talking about?
So yeah, that was in Montenegro, and I at the moment I don't remember the name of the bridge, but it was a really interesting story of this conflict that went on between one side of the bridge that was from the Muslim side of the bridge, and the other side of the bridge was the Christian, and the Christian side of the bridge, yeah. And so it was interesting to see to learn more about the history that went between those two cultures, and the conflicts that they had between each other, but also how nowadays they live in peace between each other.
Wow. And I know a lot of people are apprehensive about traveling. What made you want to travel so much, whether it was to come here to the United States or go on these extravagant cultural experiences? What was it about? Do you think part of that had to do with growing up in Italy, or what made you want to do so much traveling?
Well, that's actually an interesting question. So, as I mentioned before, I come from a very rural area of Italy, which is kind of isolated from everything. And most people are kind of close-minded, but I had the luck of growing up in a family that is pretty open. So when I was little, we had the chance to do some traveling. Not that much, but even just going on the border with Switzerland, which is 20 minutes away from us. But even doing those small experiences really opened my mind. And when I grew older, there were a lot of opportunities offered from my school and from friends that came back from doing this kind of experiences abroad. And the way they told me about those stories, it seemed so fascinating. And I really saw them changed from these experiences. And so I was like, gosh, this seems amazing. Like, I want to go through that change and learn more about not just my small community, but more about the world and what part do we play in it? So I had the opportunity in high school to do a bit of traveling, and I spent a couple of weeks in France and in Germany doing a sort of exchange program in high school. And then later on, I loved these kind of experiences, and I decided to come to the U.S. So I participated to this exchange program with AFS, and I basically was simply supposed to pick 7 countries in the world, and I was randomly assigned to the US, California, and Berkeley, and this family that I had no idea who they were and where I was. I didn't look up anything about Berkeley, and I found everything out when I got here. So it was really fascinating to go through all this mystery kind of and end up in such a beautiful place by a total surprise. And then, so I did this experience here in the US, and going back and forth between Italy and the US, I got the chance to do other kinds of travels, like the ex-Yugoslavian countries, and there being exposed to different kinds of friends and different kinds of experiences that I've went through. I ended up doing something even more extreme, such like going to the ex-Yugoslavian countries.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for sharing those experiences, and I really appreciate the value that you shared in terms of what it's like to travel and why people should travel and how it can be a life-changing experience. So really appreciate that, and I hope you have a great day, Asia.
Thank you, you too, and thank you again for having me here.